G'day guys, welcome to my channel. Now I haven't introduced myself for a little bit, so whilst I'm getting this page underway and I'm using some Distress Oxide sprays for this particular layout, but I don't use them as a spray. So this is what I want you to what I want to show you with this is you don't necessarily need ink pads. You can use your oxide sprays the same way you would use an ink pad, using the packaging technique. I personally like my packaging technique. I'm using two different pieces of looking plastic. So one here you can see has been previously scrunched right up, so it's not flat at all. I'm not a fan of the packaging technique where you just get a big splodge of color. I like to, when I'm putting color down, I like to see the separation of the color. So that's where I like to scrunch my plastic, and that way when it goes down, you're getting more of a splattered look, more dappled kind of look. And rather than, so you can see there, I'm putting some of the spray onto, I'm not using the spray function though, I'm just, because sometimes when you use the spray function, it just goes absolutely everywhere. And it's, yeah. This particular color I'm about to use now is not an oxide, it is a Distress ink spray. And I have to tell you, whilst I love the color, I'm not a fan. I don't know if there's something I'm doing wrong with it, but it stayed wet for the entire time that I did this layout. It stayed wet, and I'm quite an impatient scrapbooker. I know that sounds crazy because I know a lot of you, a lot of you people say to me, you have so much patience. I kind of do and I kind of don't. I have patience for the fact that I am able to sit and put lots of beads down and all that sort of thing. But when it comes to my mixed media, I like it to dry quickly. And what I noticed when I was putting this texture paste down all over the place, it's just a little hexagon and I'm just sort of splatting it down, not in any sort of real order. I noticed that that particular ink was just not drying. It was doing my head in. I even paused the video and dried it for a bit and it still didn't work. I'm telling you now. Now I'm doing some splatting on a brush. Now, usually I like to use my fan brush because that gives me a nice fine splatter. But I decided to pull out my number 4 round brush. And then I pulled out, just have a look and see if it's got a number on it. Number 4. The brush I'm using at the moment is a number 4, but it's out of the Gallery series and it's the Montmartre brush. I don't know, it's got a really long bristle on it, so when you tap it you get a similar effect to the fan brush but not as many splatters in one hit. I know this looks like a hot mess, guys. I know it does, but believe me, it works in the end. Something, if you're new to my channel, howdy doody. I am a self-taught scrapbooker. I scrap a little bit differently to other people. I love mixed media. I love to keep my layouts simple. I don't buy a lot of ephemera. I like to make my own ephemera and decorate, you know, or I just do things a little differently. So, yeah. So now I'm trying to, this is some white acrylic paint. And I wanted to do some white splatters on there, but I wanted them to be big and blodgy. It's working. I'm getting the big blodge. Now, I know it looks messy. Stick with me. Trust the process. And this is something I say to everybody when they're starting with mixed media. Look, there's my fan brush. It's my number 1 fan. Oh dear. I actually used that joke this morning on, I've got a floor, I squirrel by the way. I have a floor fan. So my house is air conditioned, but my craft room isn't air conditioned as such. So I have a floor fan. Anyway, This morning, Jen was getting ready for school and she was complaining about her foot because she rolled her ankle at gymnastics training last night. Anyway, she's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm just getting my number one fan. And she's like, Mum, that's so funny. And I thought it was funny. Anyway, so you can see that I'm measuring sort of here. I'm doing, see how there's lots of texture? I want to get the bulk of the texture in there, but because this is going to be a square, I've decided I needed to measure. I don't like measuring. I like to eyeball. But this particular layout requires you to measure. So if you're not a measurer, I'm sure you could do this with a, maybe, I'm using my craft knife, by the way, because of the texture paste. I'm not going to destroy a blade on my trimmer. I could do that, but I'm not going to. Now, I see when you remove those other bits and you just look at that bit, doesn't it look really cool? Now, I will apologize if my dogs bark because the electricity people are walking around. We call them meter readers. I don't know if you call them that over in your country. What do you call the person that comes around and, or even, do they do that? Like in America and Canada and England and even New Zealand, do you guys have meter readers? So the energy company comes around and reads your meter and then sends you the bill. Is that how you guys do it? That's how we do it. Anyway, we had a really tragic situation. I think it was last year, maybe. My other Aussies, you can correct me. Was it last year or the year before? We had a meter reader and he entered the premises and there was guard dogs because it was a residence, but it was also a business. So there was guard dogs, and unfortunately, the meter reader never made it back out of that yard. And as a result of that, they have now put in a risk management situation where you're not allowed to enter a property without the dogs being restrained. So my dogs are barking. They've already read my meter this morning, but they are still walking around. So my dogs bark every time they see them. Now, can you see what I did there? Now, this piece of plastic, you can see that I'm working on something shiny because of the light. I apologize for the reflection, but as the week goes on, I figure out how to fix that. This is my overhead lighting system. So, this is the coolest bit of kit. I didn't know if I wanted it, needed it, or if I would use it as much as I'm going to. Now I've worked out how to use it properly. This, or use it the way I would use it. Now, as you can see, this is a scrapbooking, I don't know what she calls it. It's from Scrapbooking, it's from Scrapbook Fantasies, and Alicia Redshaw has come up with this, and it's got a 12 by 12 grid on the back of it, so you can see where your paper would be. You can see the little grid marks, and it's a thick piece of Perspex. I think it's about, I'll measure it for you while I'm talking to you so I can tell you. It is 5 mil thick, so 5 mil, quarter of an inch roughly thick, and it's this giant piece of clear Perspex. And I've got to tell you, she's onto something, because this is genius. I don't know if anywhere else does it, but if you want to get yourself one, you will not regret it. The only thing I had was, because of the way my overhead lighting is, I get reflection off it. But don't worry, as the week went on and I used it on other layouts, I have actually figured out if I just run a piece of masking tape across, you don't get that reflection, and therefore I'll be able to use it so much more. See what I just did then? See, so I've got everything placed where I want it. I can move it out of the way, and then I can work on my background piece while all my little bits and pieces are in the right spot. Does that make sense? It is genius. How many times do we do this and we make a layout and you got to put everything on and you got to pull everything off, and you got to put everything back on and pull everything off? This is going to change the length of time it takes me to audition bits and pieces, because you know when you just get it right and then you've got to move it. because you haven't done the stenciling underneath, or you've just about got it perfect, but you think, oh, if only I had a stamped on there first. That's what this is for. Now, I will be honest with you, I have no idea how much they are. I should have looked into that. I will in coming videos. After I do this voiceover, I will look up how much they are. I could try and Google it whilst I'm talking to you, but I don't have, oh man, I have to talk to you about something else as well. I've got a lot. I've got 8 videos to voice over this morning, and I have to tell you about a couple of things. So I'm squirreling a little bit. Now, I am looking up scrapbook fantasies. Come on, just pop up for me. You know, it's because I usually look at them on a different device. Now, let me have a look. I'm not sure how much these things are, but I tell you what, for me, and you know I do a lot of scrapbooking. Okay, if you're new to my channel, I make at least 6 videos a week. So I bring you a lot of... See what I'm rubbing off there? Sorry, I bring you a lot of content. But see what I'm rubbing? That is that blueprint. What is it called? It's called Distress Ink. And it's in DYLUSIONS ink spray after midnight. It just didn't dry. Like, I'm to the point here where I have, you can see it's obviously been quite a while and it's just not drying. Drove me up the wall. By probably, I'd have to say a day and a half it took for it to dry properly. And for me, that is just a product that, nah. Maybe if I use it, I will try it on just plain cardstock. This particular one, I did actually put gesso on this page before I started, because I knew that I wanted to have the ability to remove any splatters if it was looking weird, like a bit too much in a spot or something like that. So yeah, so I'm just on this website just seeing if I can very, very quickly pull it up. Tools, come on. You can, product types, acrylic cuts. Would it be classed as an acrylic cut? I doubt it. I think it would be classed as, I have no idea, guys. I will have a look for it, and I will, if I find it, I will link it in the description below, because I can tell you now, this is a game changer. And I also bought from them some stars and some love hearts in the Perspex, and they're so good. They're fantastic. Now, I have a real thing. If you've been here for 5 minutes, you know that I like everything to match. So when I don't like colors that, well, they're in the same family, but yeah, it might work. That bugs me. So I do edit this bit. I don't make you watch the whole thing. That's my homemade mica spray. I'm trying to keep my mat clean. Can you tell? I'm trying, but I'm just not that clean and tidy. It just, I don't know if I need to have it's too hard pulling out when you're at this point on a layout. It's too difficult to pull out I don't know, like a big paper roll or something to then just go splat, splat, splat. Like that alcohol mica spray, it is so good. It really is. If you want the recipe, it's over on my Facebook group, and or it is in my tips and techniques playlist. There is a recipe, and I do verbally put it there, and I believe it's in the description as well on that video. I have no clue what number that video is though, off the top of my head. So what was I going to say? Now, I have to tell you about this. I was tagged in something on a Facebook group this morning, and I went down a rabbit hole. Yeah. You ready for a ride? Let's have a ride. Now, the funniest thing, it was just a quick statement. It was on a scrapping page. Can't even remember which one it was, but they said, what was the one food as a child that traumatized you, that you just cannot even like, you just can't get your brain around it, and why on earth your parents fed it to you. Mine was carrot soup. Blech. Honestly, that is the most disgusting stuff. To me, carrots are quite a strong flavor, but when it's put in a cup as a soup and you're told to just drink it, dude, I have said to my dad so many times, what were you thinking? And I guess if you can think back to the 80s, my dad was a single dad for the first 9 years of my life. And it was I believe it was, maybe it was after he met my stepmother. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, this is 80s, right? So I'm I'm sort of probably 9 or 10. Dead set. This stuff was the brightest orange. It was thick, like really, really thick, and so strong. And because I didn't like the flavour of it, of course, it took me forever to drink it, which was even worse. And then it was cold. So it was cold carrot soup. And I swear to God, that traumatized me for life. And there were people talking about things that they were traumatized by. You know, obviously, you've got your usuals, you know, your brains and your tripe and, you know, that sort of thing. You're awful. But I had never heard of, what were they called? Let me think. Hang on. Roll Mung Pops. There was something else that was written there. It was actually a brand. Marinated roll mops. Oh my Lord. I had never heard of them, and I can see why this would traumatize you. Have you ever heard of roll mops? I've never heard of them, and I'm a bit of a foodie, I've got to tell you. But dead set, that looks disgusting. I reckon I would have carrot soup over those. And carrot soup is pretty traumatizing. But that's gross. Blech. I don't know. What's your one food that if you had to... Just put in the comments below, because I am fascinated with things that people say, especially in different countries. Like here in Australia, roll mops, mate, that just wouldn't cut it as an Aussie kid. Just throwing it out there. A bit of fish on the barbecue, or crumbed fish from the fish and chip shop. Or if your dad goes fishing or whatever and comes home. We used to have a man, and he used to deliver whiting. He used to go shopping. He used to go fishing, and he'd get all these whiting, and he'd come around, and it was so... When you think about it now, it's a bit shonky. But he'd come around, and he would bag up his whiting, and Dad would go down and give him some money and bring in all this whiting that he didn't have to catch himself. And again, the 80s. But still, it was, you know, it's a memory. But that fish was really good. I remember that fish was really, really good. But this fish in a jar, roll mops, pass. No. I don't like many pickled things either, by the way. I love beetroot, but pickled onions? No. So as you can see, back on track. I'm sorry, I do squirrel a little bit, and I've got so many... I haven't spoken to you guys I haven't had a live for a couple of weeks, and I haven't talked about any of my, you know, my little side bits and pieces that I talk about. So I'm sort of having a bit of a squirrel, because I've got a few things I want to talk about, but I'm going to try and spread them across a couple of videos. So... You can see I trimmed all my pieces. I just cut them by scissors, but I did measure them because I knew that it was going to be quite a linear layout. Needed a border, so I went around and I cut those into 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter squares, cut them in half, triangle border, and then I'm just adding some bling to them. Those blings were actually the, what were those ones? Oh, they were the PINKFRES Studio. They are the gold, metallic pearls in gold. They were sent to me by Bobby, my wonderful friend over in the US, and that I finally found a layout that they would pop on, if that makes sense. So this, they worked, and I just wanted to just keep adding to this layout, but I had to stop myself because sometimes that's what I do. I just go too far. Well, it looks good in the end, but you know when sometimes you put things down and you go, oh, I should have stopped there? That's where I stop myself here in a minute. Now, I'm going to let you guys know that I have got a Facebook group and an Instagram link in the description below if you want to check out some close-up photos of this particular layout or any other layout that I have done. And that's where you will find it all. Don't worry, I am coming back. I'm literally looking for one thing. And I also have a buy me a coffee link in the description below as well. Just all it's for is if you want to support the channel and assist me in purchasing new product to be able to try for you guys and replenish the product that I do have. So I will let you know that I'll hold it out for the next video. I'll tell you what I bought. Check out all that texture. See how good it looks when you look up close. It's difficult sometimes on the video to grasp all the texture, but when I zoom in like this, you can see it and it looks pretty cool. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my waffle. And don't forget to leave me down below. What's the one traumatizing food you had as a child? Carrot soup is mine. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll chat to you soon. Bye for now.